Humans. We live in families. We always have in some form or another. But how did that start? When did we decide to team up, to stick together, not just as a group, but as a unit centered around raising kids? It's a big question, and the answer isn't simple. It's not like someone woke up one day and invented the family. No, this was a slow, messy, complicated process stretching back millions of years. It's a story tied to our evolution, to our bodies changing, to our brains growing, and to the challenges we face just trying to survive. Think about it. Most animals don't have families like we do. A lot of mammals, the mom raises the kids, and the dad is pretty much absent. Or they live in big, loose groups. But humans, we do something different. We form bonds, often for life or for a long time. We share responsibilities, we invest heavily in our children, not just for a few months, but for years, even decades. This way of life, this family structure, whatever shape it takes, is a huge part of what makes us human. It allowed us to thrive, to spread across the globe. Let's go way back millions of years. Before us, before even our direct ancestors, think about our closest living relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos. They live in groups. There's a lot of social interaction, grooming, alliances. Mothers are very devoted to their young, but there isn't really a dad figure in the human sense. Males might mate with multiple females. They might protect the group generally, but they don't usually form pair bonds or directly help raise specific offspring. This is probably a good starting point for what our earliest ancestors might have been like. A female, her dependent young, and then a larger fluid group of males and other females. Survival of the fittest, sure, but also survival of the most socially savvy. Then came the big changes. Our ancestors started walking upright, on two legs. This happened around 6 million years ago or so, bipedalism, that's what it's called. It freed up our hands, which is great for carrying things, making tools, gathering food, but it also had a downside for childbirth. Walking on two legs meant our hips became narrower. And that's a problem when you're also evolving bigger brains. Bigger brains meant bigger heads for babies. So, human babies were, and still are, born incredibly helpless. They come out relatively undeveloped compared to other primates. They can't walk, can't feed themselves, can't even hold their heads up for a while. They need constant long-term care. This helplessness is a huge piece of the puzzle. Imagine a female hominin, maybe an Australopithecus 3 or 4 million years ago. She's got a baby. That baby needs her full attention around the clock for years. She can't easily forage for enough food for herself and her baby if she's constantly holding it, protecting it. She's vulnerable. So what happens? There's a strong evolutionary pressure for someone else to help. This someone else could be other females in the group, like grandmothers or aunts. Or, and this is where the family really starts to take shape, it could be a male. If a male started to consistently provision a female and her offspring, that would be a game changer. Why would he do that? Well, if he knew those offspring were his, he'd be investing in his own genes, ensuring their survival. This idea is called paternal investment. For it to work, for a male to be reasonably sure the kids are his, you need some level of pair bonding, where a male and female stick together, at least for a while. This idea of pair bonding in humans is fascinating. One theory involves what's called concealed ovulation. In most mammals, females signal when they're fertile. They have swellings, scent markers, specific behaviors. Males know exactly when to mate. But human females? Not so much. Our ovulation is pretty much hidden. You can't tell by looking. So if a male wants to maximize his chances of siring offspring, one strategy is to stick around one female and mate with her regularly. It's a way to ensure paternity even if he doesn't know exactly when she's fertile. This hidden fertility might have been a key driver for males to form more lasting relationships with individual females. And think about food. Our diet started changing, we began eating more meat. Hunting is a much riskier, less predictable activity than gathering plants. It takes skill, cooperation, and often a lot of effort. A single individual, especially a pregnant or nursing female, couldn't reliably hunt for herself and her offspring. But a group could. And if a male was hunting and sharing his kill with a female and her young, that's a huge advantage for them. The female could then focus more on child rearing, knowing she and her baby had a consistent food source. This sharing of resources, often with a division of labor, males hunting, females gathering, though this is a simplification, created a strong bond of mutual dependence. Fire. That was another huge step. Around 1.8 million years ago, maybe even earlier, our ancestors, like Homo erectus, started to control fire. Fire changed everything. It provided warmth, protection from predators at night, and light. But most importantly, it allowed us to cook food. Cooking makes food easier to chew, digest, and it kills bacteria. This meant we could get more nutrients from our food. More nutrients meant bigger brains could develop. And bigger brains, as we said, meant more helpless babies. Fire also became a social hub. Imagine the scene dusk falls. The group gathers around the flickering flames, sharing food, telling stories, even if they were just grunts and gestures back then, just being together. It strengthened group bonds. It extended the day, allowing for more social learning, more interaction. It fostered a sense of community, and within that community, individual families could solidify. The shared meal, warmed by fire, might be one of the oldest human traditions. So, you have these factors building up helpless babies needing long-term care, the advantage of paternal investment, concealed ovulation, the need for shared food resources, and the social glue of fire. All these things pushed our ancestors towards forming stronger, more exclusive bonds between males and females centered around their offspring. This isn't necessarily monogamy in the modern sense, but a sustained partnership. Then came Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, around 300,000 years ago. With them came even bigger brains, even longer periods of childhood dependency. Our brains are incredibly energy expensive organs. They require a lot of calories, a lot of care during development. A human child takes years, over a decade, to reach independence. This long childhood puts an enormous burden on the parents. It meant that the family unit, or some extended version of it, became even more critical for survival. This long period of dependency also meant something else important learning. Those extra years of childhood were spent learning complex skills, absorbing culture, understanding how to navigate the world. Our ancestors weren't just passing on genes, they were passing on knowledge, traditions, survival strategies. The family became the primary school, the cultural center. And let's not forget grandmothers. Yes, grandmothers, this is a powerful idea called the grandmother hypothesis. In most animals, once a female can no longer reproduce, her evolutionary usefulness diminishes. But human females can live decades beyond menopause. Why? The theory suggests that postmenopausal women play a crucial role in the survival of their grandchildren. They help with childcare, gather food, pass on knowledge. By helping their daughters or sons raise more children, grandmothers indirectly ensure the survival of their own genes. This extended lifespan for women beyond reproductive years is almost unique in the animal kingdom and points to a very long history of cooperative breeding within human families. It shows that the family wasn't just mom and dad, but often included an extended network. Think about the social structure in early hunter-gatherer societies. We can look at contemporary hunter-gatherer groups for clues, though we have to be careful not to assume they are exact replicas of the past. These groups are often small, mobile, and centered around kinship. Everyone knows everyone else, and they're usually related in some way. There's a lot of cooperation. Food is shared, childcare is often communal. While there might be pair bonds, the family is often a much broader interconnected network. Our cousins are like siblings, aunts and uncles are like second parents. This extended family offered a robust safety net. If one parent died, others would step in to raise the children. This kind of flexibility and interdependence was crucial in harsh environments. Marriage, as a social institution, probably emerged from these early pair bonds and kinship structures. It's a formal way of recognizing and legitimizing a partnership, often with implications for resource sharing, alliance building between groups, and defining who belongs to which lineage. It's not just about reproduction, it's about social contracts, economic ties, and political alliances. Even in very early human societies, marriage likely played a role in reducing conflict within groups and forging connections between different groups. But it wasn't a perfect picture. The family wasn't always a harmonious, idyllic place. There were conflicts, power struggles, infidelities, just as there are today. Evolution isn't about creating perfect solutions. It's about creating solutions that are good enough to get by and reproduce. And sometimes those solutions are messy. Consider the role of sexual dimorphism. That's the difference in appearance between males and females of a species. In highly polygynous species where one male mates with many females, males are often much larger and more aggressive than females, with big canine teeth and exaggerated features for fighting other males. Gorillas are a good example. But in humans, the difference between males and females isn't as extreme. Males are generally a bit bigger and stronger, but not dramatically so. Our canine teeth aren't huge. This reduced sexual dimorphism in humans is often taken as evidence that at some point in our evolutionary history, male-on-male competition for mates became less intense. This could be because pair bonding was becoming more common, and females were choosing partners based on other qualities, like their ability to provision or their cooperation, rather than just their raw fighting power. Around 10,000 years ago, another massive shift occurred: the agricultural revolution. When humans started farming, this changed everything again. Instead of constantly moving to find food, people settled down. They built permanent homes, villages, then towns. They grew crops and raised animals. This created a surplus of food, but also a new set of challenges and opportunities. With agriculture, people started accumulating possessions: land, livestock, tools, stored food. This led to the concept of private property, and with private property came the need for inheritance. Who gets what when you die? This made clear lineage incredibly important. You needed to know who your father was to pass on your land. This might have further strengthened the idea of a stable, often patrilineal tracing descent through the father family unit. Agriculture also led to higher birth rates. Hunter-gatherers often space out their children because it's difficult to carry multiple dependent young while moving constantly. But settled farmers could have more children, who could then help with farm labor. More children meant a need for more structure, more defined roles within the family. The nuclear family, mother, father, children might have become more prominent, though extended family ties remained strong, often living in close proximity or as part of a larger household. The family, through all these transformations, continued to be the basic building block of society. It was the unit where children were born, raised, and socialized. It was where resources were pooled, where knowledge was passed down, where emotional support was found. It adapted to jungles, savannas, ice ages, and then to farms and cities. So, when did humans start forming families? It wasn't a single event. It was a gradual unfolding, a slow evolution driven by a cocktail of biological changes, environmental pressures, and social innovations. It started with bipedalism and helpless infants, creating a need for extended care. It was shaped by fire, cooking, and shared meals, making cooperation more beneficial. It was influenced by concealed ovulation and the benefits of paternal investment, encouraging pair bonds. It was cemented by the grandmother hypothesis and the critical role of extended kin in raising children. And it was profoundly transformed by agriculture, property, and the need for clear inheritance. The human family isn't just a cultural invention, it's deeply rooted in our biology, in the way our species evolved. It's a complex system that allowed us to overcome incredible challenges and become the dominant species on the planet. And it continues to evolve. In modern times, what constitutes a family is incredibly diverse. We have single-parent families, blended families, same-sex parent families, families chosen through friendship rather than blood. But even with all this diversity, the core functions remain: raising children, providing support, sharing resources, and creating a sense of belonging. The specific forms might change, but the underlying evolutionary drivers that pushed us toward forming these intimate, cooperative units are still very much a part of us. Yes, we are and always have been a species that thrives in families. It's in our bones, in our brains, in our history.